Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another set of videos in which we continue to talk about the Business Central from a functionality perspective. So this is the second video that we're going to talk about just a product as a product demo. And in this video, we're going to touch base on the chart of accounts from the finance module of Business Central. So the first video actually mentioned and thoroughly went through the home page and the role associated with it. So the home page being the page that you see right now in front of me, and the tiles and queues that are available for you to perform your function, and how the role, your role as a user, differentiates or determines what you see on your home page. So standard functionality or the standard out-of-the-box roles are available for you to utilize, and you can easily customize them using the customization. So that was briefly what we talked about in the first video. Today we're going to actually go into the chart of accounts, which is the backbone of finance. So let's see what is available in the chart of accounts aspect of Business Central. So I have it bookmarked here. So I think I mentioned how you can bookmark it in the first video, which is also useful functionality to have. Instead of you going into the tabs, and when you have too many windows open, then you can't possibly go back to the window, to the home page window, and then click on finance and click chart of accounts. So different ways to navigate in Business Central, but I like the search button more than anything else. But let's go into the chart of accounts. So this is the demo version of Business Central. So all the data that is there is provided by Microsoft for demonstration purposes, for playing around and get your head around what Business Central is about. So in here, the chart of accounts that are available have been structured very nicely. So you have these indents of GL accounts, and you have balances associated with it. You can even bold them and have sub GL accounts, as I like to call it. So you can even have the account type as posting. So we'll talk about that in a minute once we go into the GL account or GL card. You can talk about the posting groups. So that's more towards the configuration, but you can easily find out if this GL account is associated with any posting groups. So very useful feature to have, and to know where this GL account is being used. You can always customize it by personalizing on going into the gear icon on my settings. So you can either hide them or insert new columns that are available for you to utilize if necessary based on the user preference. A few things that I want to point out before I actually go into the actual GL account card is the reports. So these are all the reports that are available that are standard, and you can easily run them through. Accountants usually like the trial balances and detailed trial balances. So those are the major ones that I have seen accountants ask for, and which is readily available for you to utilize and show when you pitch Business Central to your clients. There are also other available reports that you can search for. So as mentioned in my previous video, there's a lot of things that are in Business Central that are hidden, so to speak, but for you to figure out how that can be accomplished or how you know what exists, you simply need to search and play around with it to navigate and see what is available. So just to enhance your knowledge, to be honest. So let's go into one of these GL account cards. So GL cards is what it's being called, and you see there are a lot of information that you need to pre-fill, and this is what your client would like to provide you. Of course, the number sequences, so unique numbers associated with each GL account, the name of the actual GL account. You want to make sure if it's an income or a balance, and what kind of category, subcategory does it fall within. You can either base this GL account as a debit or credit, or you can have it as both. So you can use this GL account as for debit or credit. The account type is posting, or you can have different options. So this is where you actually decide and try to structure your chart of accounts based on these fields or options that are available. One of the good things and features that I like is the direct posting Boolean field. So this field would actually allow you to post a transaction directly into this GL account card. So if, for instance, you have you're using a general journal for a payment, for instance, and you want to post it directly to this account, this field has to be enabled. Otherwise, if it's disabled, then it will give you an error at some point prior to posting the transaction, and it will tell you to enable this field or simply you're not allowed to actually post a transaction to this. There's a restriction associated with it, so it will give you an error. But if it gives you an error, that simply means that this account is being used somewhere else as a part of process. So most likely in a product posting group or a business posting group. So some sort of a posting group it is being used. So that's why it is disabled, and you can't do a direct posting using a journal. The other thing that I like, which has no implication on the reporting or whatnot, but is the general posting type. So it's a purchase or a sale or settlement. So it simply allows you to determine if this yield account is associated with a purchase or a sale or a settlement. So no implication on the reports when you run it, but it's just a field that actually helps you differentiate between two different accounts from a purchase and a sales perspective. One last thing that I want to mention, which is very useful, which is a pretty good feature to have in an ERP system, of course, is the balance and finding out the GL entries associated with the balances. So in here, these are all the GL entries that are respective of this GL account cash. So payment were made for this invoice. The description here associated with that invoice is here. And you also have these dimensions, so you can always personalize this, and if you don't like to use the dimensions here, then you can hide them, including with these posting groups. The amount is always useful, of course, to have. The balance account type, it's always useful to have that. Of course, you want to know that if you're receiving money or if you're paying money and to whom you're paying. Very useful window for an accountant, at least from an audit perspective. So if you're not satisfied with what you see here and you want to drill down even further, you simply go into the find entries, and it will pop up the GL entries associated with that particular transaction. So in here, if I click on the GL entries, there are number 14 entries associated with it, and they'll give you the debit and credit amounts based on the transaction that occurred. So it gives you the minute detail that you really need in order to ensure that the payment was made correctly and no information was lost in any way. So from an audit perspective, it's nice to know that nothing is going out of its place. So that actually covers the chart of accounts. It is an overview, of course. There's a lot more going on that you would need, but from a product demo perspective, I think it suffices, and it meets the objective of what we're trying to achieve in order to actually pitch to a client of selecting Business Central. So the next video, I'm going to touch base on the fixed assets, and we'll talk about how fixed assets are acquired and what we can do in terms of the limitations with a fixed asset module or submodule of Business Central.